Well, you wanted that just over the...
I think we'll have it directly over, but perhaps a centimetre further down. I'll just tell you when.
Right.
There.
Yeah. Just a sec.
Can you hold it tight?
Good.
Yeah. Can you hold it tight? Good. Nice. Oh.
What?
No, it's further over here. It's too far up here. Damn. Well, we could just do it a bit below the line.
All the way, or...?
Actually, it doesn't matter probably if the line is a bit higher up, because the other one can then go up against it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, the other one has to be 9 centimetres up, and then the plates. I think that's all right, actually. It's good. Okay, wind in. My gloves on. That seems to go through that like butter. And the big question today is whether or not I'm going to run out of corrugated iron plates and use some of the glass that I have from the greenhouse that I took down a long time ago now, probably 12 or 15 years ago, which I have never actually found the time to set back up again. Got a kind of nice misty day today. And quite can hear the road building up on the other side of the valley there. I'd like to drill and put some pegs in. So I just reversed a little bit there before taking it out again. Just to unwind the spiral from the woodwork. They're not all equal, these kind of drill bits. Some of them evacuate the chips very well and others don't. This one does quite well. It's the right shape for the size of hole that it's making. So it pulls the chips out without me having to pull it out again halfway along, which is very hard work really. And you can hear it's just getting too much for it there. But that's deep enough anyway, I don't have to go all the way through the bottom one. Now those are 22mm holes. So I need some more 22mm pegs, which I'm... If you're new to this channel, welcome. It's mostly about restoring old buildings. This is making a new building with materials that I've cut down on my little farm here. It's a small holding, 9-acre farm, 3.3 hectares. And I had some box left over from the garage building that I did. It's 15cm by 15cm box, 6x6, which is being used here as the roof joist. I don't usually do quite as much handwork as this unless I'm restoring something old, because it's not as efficient as using machine-based tools like chainsaws and stuff. So this is really because it's a kind of experimental building for me. I would like to find out a little bit more about how this Grindbygg system works, kind of trestle building. It has a long history, according to the people who are commenting on these films, because I don't really know very much about the history, but apparently it has connections with the old stave churches, which there are still examples of that are 700 or 800 years old, and there are some buildings in England which use some of the same building technology, wood technology, some barns which are Norman. 900 years, is that 900 years? Something like that. I'm not saying this one will last that long, I'm sure it won't, but welcome to the channel. These two are long enough, that one's too short. But I think they're all maybe a little bit too thin at the other end. I want them to go down to my much stated 9cm thickness, which was actually arbitrary, but it turned out to be a good choice because it meant that I could use the wind boards at the end, Vinci as we call them. They could be 10 centimetres, and that way they would stick down a centimetre lower than the purlin, keeping them dry. I've just let these find their own line. The belly is up, the back is down. I'm just using Norwegian expressions and turning them into English for your understanding. I don't know what these terms are in any other language than Norwegian. And since I've done one side, I'm a little bit more confident now that it works, so I don't have to make up the protocols for doing this. I just do them. It's a bit quicker. I think I might just use the chainsaw to do these. You've seen me using the axe quite a lot now, but I want to show that it's also perfectly adequate to use the chainsaw to do the same thing. Mist has rolled in. So that's about as far as it can go there because it gets too thin there. It's good. Chalk lines are really good. It's an ancient tool. It just uses a mix of chalk and iron oxide. Pigment Red 42 I think it's called. I also found out the other day that the same iron oxide is what jeweller's rouge is made of. I was at my mum's, she's a jeweller, and she gave me some rouge for something, and I said, oh, that's funny, that's like iron oxide pigment. And she looked it up, and sure enough, there it was. So, little refill with chalk. They used to use charcoal for doing this. Black. The Japanese use ink. I suppose the Chinese do too. Just check that width there. Should be 9. Right, it's about 9.5. That's fine. That's better. Again, I can only chalk as far as it is actually 9 wide, which is to about there. I would normally chalk I would probably normally just wind it in once for 4 or 5 marks because you can still see it, but that's on timber that's been had the bark taken off and it's fresh. And building houses. There. Let's check that there. Again, 9.5, so I can cut the line off. I don't want these rolling around while I cut them. I'm going to cut them with a chainsaw today, not with the axe as I've been doing in the previous films. I don't want them rolling around, so I'm just going to fix them down here together. Could just even cut that off if I want to. I suppose I could use my dog at the other end. I don't know if I can really. I suppose I can put them together, I can do those two outside edges. Making films of this work takes about as much time as doing the work. So if you're interested in this subject and you think that you're getting some kind of benefit from watching these films, then if you'd like to support the channel, then consider Patreon or PayPal. That's a more direct way of doing it. Or tell a friend, watch the films and share them to other people. That helps as well. Just going to put that on mute. Should still be able to hear me because there's one on the top of the camera. It's too loud. The other side can just be chopped to the 9cm thickness where it goes onto the joist. It doesn't matter if the purlins hang down lower, and in fact they're much stronger of course if you don't cut them. Now that I know from the other side, see, it's really good having a little bit of confidence in the system. The purlins stick out 20cm and then the outside board, the vinci as we call it, the wind board, is nailed onto that. So it's 20cm into the first roof joist, and the roof joist is 15. So from there to there, I can just cut that flat to 9cm thickness, and it'll be the right height. And it doesn't matter that there's more wood lower down than that level, because actually it just makes it stronger. Close to 9.8, and that one's close to 11. It's about 9.7. I'll do the same at the other end and the 2 points in the middle. I'm going to nip up and measure between the joists. I can't say I remember what they were. It's 1.7 metres, at least that one. 1.7 plus 20, 1.9 plus 15, 205 isn't it? Plus 15, there we go. And then, like as a check, some balances, should be 1.7. No, I've done it wrong. 1.7. Yeah, that's correct. Working on the slope like this is tricky because there are a lot of optical illusions all the time. That's very good. That's also very good. It's a little bit thick at the bottom, that one. Tiny bit. So it has to be 9 wide on all of these. I'm not quite sure what the margin of error is here really. It's they're only tin plates. Mind you, I suppose they are, because they're an industrial product, they are very regular. So if there's a lot of inaccuracy, I suppose it's very obvious. The other side looks alright though, and I never did take it down to 9 with a power plane. I just put them on. Looked good. It's about 9.5, that one. At the other end, yeah, it's not so straightforward because they are a bit too thin. So I'm going to let them shoot out, but I'm going to put other ones there as well to build up the height. So I might put another one that goes all the way back to the second joist. So here it's supposed to be 20 centimetres in, that's there, to 15 there, but that's supposed to be 9 and I don't think it actually is. No, it's less than 8. I can put something under it just to chock it up. That's probably the way to do it, just put something under it because it's plenty strong enough. Especially with this round, when you leave it round like this, it's much stronger than cutting it back. So the important thing is the distance between those two. Can I just assume that it's 170? So 205 from the end. I think I'm going to say that it was symmetrical. I have actually forgotten. I think it was. Pretty sure it was. And that one is about right. Okay, well there we go, that's the job done with a chainsaw. So I don't know how many times faster that is, maybe 3-4 times faster. I've done 3, but I mean if I'd known how to do it right from the start it would have been quicker. Because I've done it on the other side, I'm more confident that I'm not going to make a mistake here. But that's how it is with these, with carpentry. It's the routines that make it go fast. It's the fact that you've done it before. If you remember, when I started this series, it was because I'd had these materials here that were getting wet because the tarpaulins were blowing off them. The irony is that they'd been under those tarpaulins for a couple of years and not got wet due to this being a bit slower than it could have been. They've all got very wet, just hanging around out here. So it means that I can't use them for a customer probably. It certainly doesn't do them any damage. I mean, wouldn't be able to build houses out of wood like this if the wood took damage immediately it was wet. That's part of the point of having, or I go out of my way to get hold of really good quality spruce and pine, which is available here in Scandinavia, but I don't know that it is available in other countries. I've seen the quality of materials that you get in Britain, for example. The stuff that's grown there, at least, that's not imported, is awful. I certainly don't think you could build these kind of Scandinavian houses out of that kind of spruce and pine, because it would certainly rot very quickly. And I recognise that there are quite a few people in the UK who are interested in these wooden houses from Scandinavia. And I don't know if it comes across in the films that I make, but I can't actually stress it strongly enough that this system is very old. The equivalent in Britain is building timber frame houses, which is also very old. But notice they're not built out of pine. They're built out of oak. Sometimes they're built out of elm. They're built out of wood that can handle the humid climate. There is Scandinavian wood in old houses in Britain, but that's mostly indoors. Some of it comes from America. I think it's called pitch pine. But for those of you watching in Canada or Alaska, where you're as far north as this, or maybe a little bit further south, but at least where you have the long cold winters and cool summers, there's plenty of opportunity for good materials, I would imagine, because of course I haven't actually been to see it. People talk about, I've noticed in the States, talk about old growth. Now, I don't think of old growth as being slow grown, I just think of it as being forests that were cut down by Americans that had been planted or grown from before, from earlier times, what you could call virgin forests, although I don't actually think that is, I don't know, that's a kind of modern concept probably, because where there are people there are forests, where there are forests there are people. I don't think that there are so many forests where there aren't any people. Everywhere where there are forests now in the north was covered in ice during the Ice Age, and there certainly weren't any trees then. So all of the trees that are in the north now have come since then, the last, I suppose it was 9,000 years ago when that stopped really. I mean, it's still getting warmer, and it has been since the last Ice Age, and people are continually moving further north. Civilization has moved north as it's got warmer. We've got to live in North Africa now, living there closer to the Ice Age or during the Ice Age. And it would have been nice and clement, green like it is here now. So where did this ramble start? That this material here is wet. And it is wet, but going to dry. It might not dry if I stack it like this. I might have to put pieces of wood in between them so the air can get between them. But because the cold weather has started now, that's not a pressing activity. It doesn't have to happen at once, because nothing rots in Norway during the winter unless it's in connection with some kind of heating, like a bathroom. They rot all year round in Norway. But this outdoor wood doesn't rot very quickly outdoors. It doesn't. It's one of the reasons why you can have buildings like I have here on this property. The little shed here, it's over 100 years old. It's got the same panel on it as it had when it was originally put up, and it has been treated with colour once, but it hasn't got any colour on it now. It probably hasn't had for 60 years, I should think. Because it doesn't stay wet long enough to rot the wood, and that's the point. This wood's wet now and it's got discoloration on it, which is just really the lignin and the colours that are in the lignin coming out. Kind of tannin colours, tannins. They leach out with the water, they're slightly water soluble. And then they might wash off completely, which is why the timber goes grey, and that happens pretty much with all kinds of wood. Even mahogany goes grey if you leave it outdoors. That's just the colour of cellulose. A lot of people ask about treatments. Well, if you've got the right kind of wood, you don't need a treatment. If you put a treatment on it, it's just as likely to do damage as to do protection. And how do I know this? Because I've seen houses here that are 700 years old and have never had any colour on them, and they don't seem to had great problems. Well, I've seen houses that are 15 years old that are rotted, and you can't see any difference in the quality of the materials. It's all to do with the treatment. They've been treated with something that didn't allow the material to dry out after it got wet. And the rot happens in here in Norway in the summer when it's warm, not in the winter, unless it's in connection with heated interiors.